The skyline in Long Beach, California will soon be dominated by the world's largest mural, Weiland's Planet Ocean. But today it is simply a work in progress, a decoration, if you will, for round 3 on the 1992 Toyota Atlantic Championship. Hello once again, everyone. I'm Bob Barsha. Welcome to Long Beach, where the car wars are in full swing. Through 2 rounds of this year's Toyota Atlantic Championship, the American-built Swifts, long dominant in this series, have been shouldered aside by the new British-built Reynards. But that could all change today. Though these cars are technologically sophisticated, this remains a driver-oriented series that has seen so many great names in its 19 years. From Formula One champions like K.K. Rosberg and the late Gilles Villeneuve, through the IndyCar stars of today, Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti. We have a whole new crop of names to introduce you to, and joining me to do that, 1987 Toyota Atlantic champion Calvin Fish. Calvin, through 2 races, Russell Spence of England has been the star, but he could have some problems today.
That's right. I think it's imperative today that some of the series veterans step up to the plate and score a victory. Steve Cameron, Stuart Crowe, Chris Smith. I think one of these guys has to score a victory, tighten up this points battle, this stage of the season. Otherwise, Russell Spence could have it all his own way.
Well, Russell Spence took the first pole of the year, but he's not on pole today. One of the guys who could unseat him is standing by now with Bart Kendall.
Standing here with our pole sitter, Chris Smith. Now, Chris, you've been up front in Atlantics before, but this is your first career pole position. You're a half a second quicker than the rest of the field. Is the race going to be that easy for you today?
Well, I'd like to think so. I got some good guys behind me, but we've got a real good car, and I got a good crew this weekend. We're running good. It's a home race. I think it's going to be a good one for us.
How about the new circuit here at Long Beach? They've changed the track a little bit. How's that going to affect your strategy?
Well, you got a couple of real long straights here, so, you know, drafting might be an issue. Someone can pull up behind you, get a good draft, and try to get by you under braking. I think just got to, you know, play it by ear and keep an eye on the guys behind you, and I'd like to break away and not have that be an issue.
All right, Chris Smith hoping to parlay that fine pole position into a victory here in Long Beach.
All right, thank you, Bart. Now, one of the great variables in this race will be the track itself. For the first time since 1984, the Long Beach street circuit has been changed. On the back stretch at the top of your picture, a 3-turn complex has been eliminated, lengthening the back stretch, but shortening the track by 1/10 of a mile. Calvin, what's that likely to mean to these racers?
Well, with the old course layout, the emphasis was on handling. But with 2 long straightaways now, the guys are really trimming out the aerodynamics, setting the car up to straightaway speed. Also, with any street circuit, there's no testing allowed. So, and with the track changing this year, that's a great equalizer. It should be a great race today.
We expect to see some cars slip-sliding around there, and every braking area should be an adventure. We'll be back in a moment to introduce the starting lineup. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Toyota Atlantic Championship from Long Beach, California is brought to you by Toyota Motorsports, where technology on a fast track is built into every Toyota. And by Scope, the best thing, first thing in the morning. Welcome back to Long Beach, California, where we are set to go racing in round 3 of the Toyota Atlantic Championship, and we have a beautiful day, 78 degrees, a light breeze out of the northwest, absolutely perfect weather for racing. Here's a look at the point standings coming in after 2 rounds. Russell Spence of England with 2 victories and a pole in the season opener at Miami leads with 41, followed by Stuart Crowe with 25. John Miranda comes in 3rd, followed by Jamie Gallus with a pole in the most recent round at Phoenix, Arizona, and then a tie for 5th between Steve O'Hara and John Brooks. Now as the cars roll off and we prepare for the most exciting moment in motorsports, a standing start, let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. On the pole for the first time in his Toyota Atlantic career, Chris Smith from Palos Verdes Estates, California. Next to Jamie Gallus from Albuquerque, New Mexico, son of IndyCar owner Rick Gallus. On row 2, Steve Cameron, a former crew chief in the series from Sonoma, California. Next to the man who has won the only 2 races held this year, rookie Russell Spence from Bradford, England. On row 3, R.K. Smith, the ageless all-rounder from Rancho Santa Fe, California, next to the 1990 Series champion Mark Dismore, back from savage injuries in a crash at Indianapolis a year ago. Row 4 will be Charles NEARBURG from Dallas, Texas, and his teammate on the Ralt American team, but driving Swifts, Stuart Crowe. Elsewhere in the field on row 5, Harold Huisman of Norway is Russell Spence's teammate, next to last year's most improved driver, Steve O'Hara. Peter Fawcetta Jr. is 26 years old and his second year on the tour, next to John Miranda from Sacramento, California. We have 30 starters in the field today, representing 8 states and 6 countries. 10 of them are rookies, and virtually every car in this field has been nicked in practice or qualifying as they prepare to run the concrete canyons of Long Beach, California. There is John Marconi on the racetrack. He'll be carrying one of our onboard cameras today. The other will be in the car of Steve Cameron. Now, Marconi's onboard gave us a great view of an incident that happened in yesterday's qualifying. Let's take another look now.
It's coming up to turn 7. I was observing at this point, spun on someone's oil, backed into the wall, and there you see the front airfoil come up and hit him in the helmet. At that stage of that qualifying session, John Marconi was second quickest and unfortunately didn't get back up the second session and dropped down to 22nd position on the grid.
He really got his bell rung. Here is John Marconi now in the fully repaired race car. Remarkable job of getting this machine put back together by his crew. Now here's our other onboard camera. This is Steve Cameron, originally from New Zealand, man who was a crew chief in the Toyota Atlantic Championship before being offered a drive in the Pope Racing Swift. Now coming up will be a standing start. Formula Atlantic, the only series other than Formula One, and the only series in North America for that matter, utilizes a standing start. The cars will come around to their grid positions. When all 30 are in place, they will be turned over to the starter. A red light will come on as you watch Cameron there. And then within 10 seconds, usually about 3 or 4, they will either get a green light or they will get no light at all. When the red goes out, whether you get the green or not, it's time to let out the clutch and get rolling. A look at the huge crowd on hand here at Long Beach. More than 75,000 people here to watch the biggest race on the Toyota Atlantic Championship calendar. The drivers are in place. The grid is being cleared. Right foot holding brake and accelerator down up to 10,000 RPM. Left foot on the clutch. Engines revving, engine heating. They can't wait much longer. There is the flag from the back. We have a red light. We have a green, and we're away.
Good start by Smith. He moves across in front of Jamie Gallus. Russell Spence, another good start, moving up into the second position. He may be able to take the lead here going down into turn 1. It's Spence and Gallus side by side, and Spence has the inside line right now, and Steve Cameron coming up on the inside also.
Chris Smith overwhelmed at the first corner as Cameron and Gallus come forward.
Clean start so far. Everyone through turn 1 and 2 cleanly. And Spence out front already. This is amazing.
You're on board now with Steve Cameron.
He's hard up behind Christopher Smith, coming out of turn 4, down through turn 5, through the gears. Up in 4th gear right now. He'll grab 5th right here. Very fast section down the back straightaway. Russell Spence is out front, and Jamie Gallus is looking for a way by right now.
This is at the end of the back straight.
Papa Smith, Christopher Smith under braking there. He's really trying hard, trying to make some positions back up. Started on the pole and has dropped back as we look back through the field. Gustavo Gutierrez in car number 21 right there, heading down into the hairpin turn 8. Steve O'Hara going through, followed by Charles NEARBURG, I believe.
As they come down the front straightaway here on Shoreline Drive in Long Beach, you may get a look at the parked car, number 34 of John Miranda from Sacramento, California. The car died on the grid. He could not get it restarted. That will remain parked.
Gallus underneath Spence for the lead, and he makes a super move by Jamie. He's really coming on strong this year and puts that Valvoline car back out front.
Just 20 years of age, youngest man in the field, Jamie Gallus. A car that looks remarkably like the Indy car driven by Al Unser Jr. for Jamie's father, Rick Gallus.
He seems to be pulling away a little bit by Russell Spence. This is a surprise. Russell didn't expect him to be as strong as this in the race today. Spoke to Russell before the race, said they had some handling problems getting the car to turn in. We now go on board with Steve Cameron here, down into turn 6.
Cameron running 4th.
And Christopher Smith has spun, and RK's blocked behind him.
A pair of Smiths, RK and Christopher. Chris Smith, the son of engineering wizard Carroll Smith. RK has stalled it. You can see that he was asking someone to push him, but you can't do that as a corner worker. Here's another look at what happened.
Someone's coming down the inside of Christopher Smith. Is Mark Dismore in car number 1. Good move by Mark, and just took the spot away from Christopher. He lost under brake, and RK had nowhere to go and didn't get the clutch disengaged, and
You just saw R.K. Smith coming in the side of your picture.
Through turn 3, Cameron's putting the pressure on Spence now. Russell may not be strong today, but Steve Cameron's got to look for a way around before Jamie gets too far in front.
Russell Smith said before the race, there's only 1 point per pole. I don't care if I have that. I'm going for 20. 20 points, the overall winner. Spence, a very canny veteran of years of open wheel racing in Europe. Ironically, came to this race a year ago and couldn't qualify for it with an older Reynard model.
Okay, Smith's car still aborted in the middle of the track there. This may cause a yellow. I believe he's out of the car. Cameron looked for an inside move there, coming down into turn 6, but probably saw the yellow flag, and we're under.
We are scheduled for 38 laps. We have completed 3. We will be back for more from the Toyota Atlantic Championship at Long Beach. From high above Shoreline Drive, a look at the marina. In a moment, you'll see the Queen Mary and the bubble housing the Spruce Goose, 2 of the most famous elements of Long Beach, California. To the left of your screen now, Russell Spence, winner of the first 2 Toyota races of the year, being challenged for 2nd place. Gently, boys.
That was tight. Steve Cameron got a big draft coming down the front straightaway on Russell. Went to the outside, moved back to the inside, but Russell was having none of it. He wants to get up front. He doesn't like this messing around in 2nd and 3rd. He's used to leading these races this year, and that's where he wants to be right now.
4-car train, Jamie Gallus, Russell Spence, Steve Cameron, and Mark Dismore.
Dismore is back. I mean, horrendous injuries from Indianapolis last year, and he's now running in the 4th position, running with Bill Fickling's team. They have the latest updates on that Swift car, and car's obviously running strong. Qualified in the 6th position, moved up to 4th already early in this race.
Now, we've been informed by officials that the number 12 of Russell Spence is going to be assessed a penalty for jumping the start. So we'll have to wait for that. He'll be brought in, stopped, and let go again, but that will be a disaster for Spence as he tries to run his series to 3 in a row.
Wow, that's incredible. That will have a dramatic effect on the outcome of this race because everyone's running so tight. I mean, if he gets a 10-second penalty or a minute penalty even, that's going to move him way back in the positions at the end of this one.
Oh, once again, Cameron taking a look underneath.
In Cameron now, you can see Steve Cameron trying to make a move on Russell Spence, moving up to turn 3, 2nd gear turn, come out of here.
Onto the backstretch they go. One more turn, and then you'll see the part of the racetrack right here where that complex of right and left-hand turns was removed.
Dismore looks strong. He may be looking for a move here on Cameron, moves down the inside. Steve doesn't want to let him have it, but it's too late. Mark takes the position away from him. Up in the 3rd position now for Mark Dismore.
Mark Dismore using that updated Swift chassis. The Swift drivers have found out that the new nose and the new side pods tend to unbalance the car a little bit. Either element alone makes the car quicker, but put the 2 of them together on the car and you can have a little bit of trouble getting the handling down.
I believe Mark is not using the side pods here today. I think he has the new nose and the new rear wing on the car, but not the side pods. They need to do some more testing with that to get it balanced out. But obviously got a good race set up here right now, and he's now coming up to make a move on Russell Spence, closing in through turn 2. Russell may be in radio communication with his pit over this penalty, and he may not, so he seems to be driving real hard right now. All you can do in that situation is just to keep your head down and keep going, whether you know the penalty or not. Obviously very frustrating for a driver, and Mike Gill, the team manager there, may decide not to tell Russell of this penalty that's been incurred at the jumping the start.
Now Dismore looking underneath Spence. Not this time.
Russell seems very strong under braking. The car seems to be able to brake incredibly late. Russell doesn't want to give the position away, and Mark came out of the slipstream ready to make a move, but Russell was on the brakes later.
Now, in case you're wondering why Russell Spence has not pitted for his penalty, the team has a choice in the Toyota Atlantic Championship. He can either come in for a stop-and-go penalty or be penalized 30 seconds on the racetrack at the end of the race. It's up to the team.
Looking at them heading down into turn 1. Mark Dismore again down the inside, but look at that, Russell Spence. I mean, he almost pulls away from Mark Dismore under braking. Same deal when Steve Cameron was trying to make a move. Meanwhile, Jamie Gallus running a real smooth race up front. Coming up on some back markers here soon.
As you watch Spence and Dismore, you get a good look at the design differences between the Reynard, just going out of your picture, and just behind what is essentially a 4-year-old design in that Swift.
Russell Spence running down the right-hand side of the track, all the way down the back straightaway. That's a very defensive position, but Mark Dismore has gone around the outside and made the move stick, and that was tight.
And we're
Tom
already
Dooley
lapping.
almost got in the way there under lap traffic, and Bill Pratt now is... Gallus tries to go around him. This is going to make it real tight in the hairpin. Russell Spence nearly hit Mark Dismore right there. Could be some front wing damage right there.
Got to watch the mirrors in traffic. On board again with Steve Cameron.
Again, Russell Spence, defensive line, right-hand side of the straightaway, going past the back marker, and Steve Cameron shakes his head a little bit there. He's frustrated by this. Russell Spence has really stopped any progress for Steve Cameron in this race.
There you see them almost side by side for a moment there as Cameron came up the outside. He wanted the inside, but Spence won't let him have it.
Meanwhile, Jamie Gallus and Fossetta has crashed. Number
Peter
15.
Fossetta, who has come back from a savage crash at Phoenix on the oval last year that gave him severe foot and ankle injuries, has crashed once again. Here is the
third
battle.
position here. Russell Spence down the back straightaway, and this is for the lead. Mark Dismore gone to the outside of Jamie Gallus. Could make the move coming out of turn 6 here. Not quite close enough, I think. Oh, yes, he did. Great move by Mark around the outside there. Really got the momentum.
We have a new leader. Mark Dismore takes over from Jamie Gallus. Bearing the number 1, the defending Toyota Atlantic champion, Joby Marcello, is not in this race. So the coveted number 1 goes to the next most recent champion, in this case, Mark Dismore.
And Mark's out to impress here, obviously in front of the IndyCar teams. He wants to get back in IndyCar racing. Jamie Gallus goes underneath. This is tight. Oof, that was so close. Unbelievable stuff here. Jamie Gallus is fighting hard this season. He looks like a new man in that race car. Rookie year last year, a little bit tentative, but now he's coming on really strong. But Mark's pulling away a little bit. That's what happened when you try and make a move. Don't quite pull it off. You lose all that momentum, and Mark's on his way. Russell Spence in the background. They're still fighting off Steve Cameron.
It is Dismore, Gallus, Russell Spence, Steve Cameron, Stuart Crow, Harold Heusman, Chris Smith. Charles NEARBURG runs on the 9th position. Steve O'Hara is 10th.
Through turn 6, in-car camera with Steve Cameron closing in on Russell Spence. Seems to me that when we get back onto this front straightaway, let's look again. Looks like Russell's a little bit slow down the middle part of the straightaway, may have a lot of downforce in the car. And then Steve comes on real strong, but can't make the move stick. Russell's really strong under braking for turn 1.
In my rundown there, I skipped Carlos Bonetti, who is running in the 8th spot. Charles NEARBURG is 9th, Steve O'Hara 10th. And we've now been informed by officials that Russell Spence's team has elected to stay on the track. Oh, somebody locks him up. Spence, I believe.
Spence locked him up again, goes underneath Alex Portman there in turn 1 and 2. And he's closed in on Jamie Gallus, who Jamie obviously had some problems getting around these back markers. And Portman straight in at turn 3. Offline, turned in a little bit too late, got on the grey marbles and straight in, but no damage, I don't think.
That is the Right Honorable Alex Portman, son of a Viscount in England. He will be married in May in Westminster Cathedral, and you have to get the permission of Queen Elizabeth to do that. So the title Portman having his problems, the race continues with Mark Dismore leading.
I went to an hill climb meeting, I saw it, I enjoyed it, I inquired how much one was, and lucky enough at the time I was earning good money, so I bought one purely to say in discourse to girls that I was a racing driver, and that's how it all started. It's gone downhill since. The competition is absolutely, there's no difference at all between America and Europe. The drive, determination is exactly the same. The difference is a European team will set off to a European circuit. When they arrive, they're actually, they're the only people there, they're the only people that matter. No teams communicate, help each other in any which way. Whereas in America, the competition is there, but there's this friendliness. They'll help you. Over here, we've arrived from England, and really we're by ourselves, yet every team in this pit lane has helped us.
Back in Long Beach, California, Bob Barsh and Calvin Fish with you. And there is Russell Spence in the pits. Remember, he jumped the start. We anticipated he was going to take the 30-second time penalty. This isn't necessarily a stop and go. It may be a mechanical problem on the car. We'll have to watch.
Seemed as though the car temporarily stalled there as he came in, or he couldn't get, and he's out of the car, obviously a mechanical problem.
And so the winner of the first 2 rounds of the Toyota Atlantic Championship in 1992 will climb out. There you see him clapping his crew on the back letting them know that this one is broken. Meanwhile, here's your leader, Mark Dismore. We mentioned earlier that he is driving an older Swift model race car with a new aerodynamic update package on that car. Our Bart Kendall took a closer look at what's comprised in the upgrade kit.
They say the race belongs to the Swift. However, this year in the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the race has belonged to the Reynard. But the chase is on. Swift Cars USA, not content with playing second fiddle to the Reynard, has come out with an update kit in order to get back to that #1 position. Now with me is Chief Engineer for Swift Race Car, David Bruns. Now David, what sort of changes have you made to the new Swifts to combat the Reynard?
Well, basically, we've tried to improve the aerodynamics of the car by trying to create some more downforce without paying any drag penalty. And we've come up with, through some computer testing and some on-track developments, some different wings, a little different configuration for the nose and a new rear wing. Basically, in the front wings, what we have is a somewhat longer cord, but a different profile compared to the older wing, which was the much shorter cord and a slightly different but draggier profile. We felt we have an improvement there. In regards to the nose, basically the new nose box is mounted a little bit higher off of the ground and then scalloped away underneath the wing, thereby allowing more airflow to go underneath the wing and reduce the drag. The third major change for the 1992 updates was the new rear wing configuration, which is basically a dual element, much shorter cord and end plate wing mounts. All this has reduced the drag with the same amount of downforce.
We'll have to wait and see how successful these new Swift update kits are. But if past performances are any indication, don't be surprised to find a Swift in the winner's circle sometime soon.
All right, thank you, Bart. There is a look at your leader, Mark Dismore, the 1990 Toyota Atlantic champion. He is followed by Jamie Gallus. Russell Spencer is now out of the race. That moves Steve Cameron up into third spot, followed by Stuart Crow, Chris Smith, Harold Heusman, Carlos Bonetti, Charles NEARBURG, Steve O'Hara, and Mike Berg in the 10th spot.
Got Jamie Gallus going underneath Gary Peterson there in turn 1, and Steve Cameron now trying to make the same move. It's very tight through here. It's hard to get out of the way for the slower guys. It really is. I mean, you see Steve is really frustrated. He threw his hand in the air right there. But, I mean, the guy can't disappear. It's unfortunate, but that's just a fact of motor racing.
Always has been. This shot from the far end of the back straightaway. Once again, on board with Steve Cameron.
See him coming down into second gear, heading down through turn 6, up to third gear for turn 7. At this stage, he'll bring it back down to first gear for turn 8, the hairpin, and try and get on the power as smoothly as possible. Really hard to get the power down right here. You don't want to get too sideways, otherwise you're losing time. Back up through the gears, very fast down here. He's lost a little bit of ground on Jamie there by encountering that back marker, but he seems to have a strong car. Had a disastrous race at Miami, the one we saw in round 1, and he's not hoping for a repeat performance here today.
In fact, Steve Cameron came into this event tied for 20th in points. Here comes the 4th place car of Chris Smith, who had that spin earlier.
Not been a good race so far for Chris, but I mean, there's lots of laps to go here. He can still get it out front. Running really strong, obviously has a fast car, put it on the pole for today's race, so Chris will be looking to get back up front before the end of this one.
Chris Smith, son of racing engineer Carroll Smith. He was involved in a first lap crash in Miami that also took out Harold Heusman and the defending series champion Joby Marcello.
A little bit exuberant, I think, on that move at Miami, but obviously calmed down, got his act back together. Didn't run strong at Phoenix, but has been very fast all weekend here at Long Beach. We now look at Stuart Crow and Harold Heusman coming up to try and make a move on him as they encounter a back markers also. Down through turn 6 again. Heusman now the lone Reynard representative for the 3001 team, with Russell out of this race.
This is the battle for 5th place.
See Stewart got on the power a little bit earlier there, a little bit sideways coming out, but nonetheless, good jump off turn 8, the hairpin, and Harold's now coming back up on him. Looks real strong here through the mid part of the straightaway, then it evens out. Let's look under braking. Russell was real strong on a brake. Let's see if Harold can make the move. Down to the inside, clean move. Nice job. Stewart saw him coming, didn't fight the position too hard. These guys want to finish races and score points. For Harold, he's had 2 unfortunate races, hasn't finished either one at Miami or Phoenix, and he's looking to put some points in the bag and get back in this championship battle here today.
Harold Heusman, familiar to ESPN viewers. He drove in the IMSA GTP series for a number of years. He also drove Barber-Saab open-wheeled cars when he first came over to make his name in American racing.
Harold's fast, very fast, and he wants to make a name for himself and get up into IndyCar racing. Saw him under braking there, a little bit too much rear brake, very bumpy under braking for turn 6, and the rear of the car got a little bit sideways on him. But these guys are driving on the edge. That's going to happen, you know. They're going to get a little bit sideways coming under the corner, a little bit unsteady under braking as we look to John Marconi for a second. Now we're on board with Marconi as he chases after Ken Johnson under braking for turn 8, the hairpin turn. Now onto the front straightaway, back on the power up through the gears. Passing some slower traffic now, and John Marconi seems a little bit quicker at this stage. He may be in position to make a move down into turn 1.
Stuart Crow, a former Sports Car Club of America Super V champion, runner-up for Rookie of the Year in the Toyota Atlantic Championship last year to John Tanner, who's not in the field this year.
Right behind these guys is Carlos Bonetti, having his strongest run of the year. Didn't do well at Miami, crashed in qualifying for Phoenix, and he's looking for better things from this year. Very good friends with many of the famous Brazilian drivers over in Brazil, Fittipaldi and the likes, and he's looking for a strong performance to get him on the map.
While the action continues, we saw Russell Spence climb out of his car a few moments ago. He's standing by now with Mark Kendall.
I'm standing here with Russell Spence, who was off to a good start. And Russell, what happened? You had a good start, and then you came in.
Yeah, what happened, actually, before the green light went, the clutch started to break down. Started me to creep, I stopped, made a good start, but then I just kept missing gears. I kept missing gears up at the hairpin. I couldn't select first. I'm going to come out there in second, and everybody was just eating me alive at the end of the straight.
Did you realize that you were going to be penalized after the race for jumping the start by the officials?
Well, I think it'd be really interesting to watch it. What happened was, as we're building our revs up, the clutch broke down. It started to roll. I stopped the car before the lights went to green, and then started. But yeah, I think I won out of my box, but simply because my clutch broke down. I couldn't do anything about that.
Well, whether or not the penalty would have made a difference, we'll not know. With Russell Spence, you won't get 3 in a row here in Long Beach today.
There you see the battle continue between Stuart Crow and Harold Heusman. Plenty of action still to come your way from the Toyota Atlantic Championship Round 3. Heusman going underneath Crow.
Made the move stick. Stuart almost waved him by. He knew that it was a hopeless position, and he just said, go ahead, Harold. We'll have another corner to fight this one over.
Great battle for 5th place on the racetrack.
Oh, Carlos Bonetti nearly nails Stuart Crow in the gearbox right there. That's not the position to take for that one.
Almost no way to get underneath someone in that hairpin. We'll be back for more action from the Toyota Atlantic Championship in just a moment. Back in Long Beach, there you see the car of David Doskey from Redondo Beach, California, who was running 17 on the racetrack when he tangled with another car and spun in the hairpins. That's Steve Cameron.
That's Steve Cameron. He may have hit Doskey. I don't know. He's just, obviously, the engine's not running. We see the oil light. He's trying to get a bump start here. You can see his head judder as he's trying to kick it in gear. I would think what happened, he came around that corner, didn't know Doskey was in the middle of the track, and just stalled the car. As we look at Harold Heusman, he's made the move around Stuart Crow in the 5th position.
Here's another look at what happened.
Here's Doskey, locked the left front brake up under braking there for the hairpin and just nailed the wall, turned in too tight to the hairpin, turn 8, clipped the right rear corner, spun himself around, and then the next guy, I'm not sure what that car number is, did the same thing, it looked like.
I thought he had tangled with another car, but Doskey actually just tangled with one of those 8,000-pound concrete barriers around the course.
Charles NEARBURG there gone underneath the Gary Peterson, and Charles is currently holding down the 8th position. I gotta believe we're going to get a full course yellow here. The car is in the middle of the track. Well, I say that, they're now pulled across to the side, but it's still very dangerous right there.
They'll do that to you every time. NEARBURG is Stuart Crow's teammate, so both of those teammates now running in the top 10. There's Harold Heusman in the white number 11, followed by Stuart Crow, number 3.
And Carlos Bonetti in car number 36 is coming up on Stuart Crow. I was impressed with Carlos. I was doing some split times down through 6, 7, and 8 yesterday, and Carlos was very quick through there, and surprisingly he wasn't further up on the grid sheet, but the car's obviously working well. He's running with the Genoa team that ran Jimmy Vasser last year, and obviously running Jamie Gallus in today's race, who's running very strong, up in the 2nd position.
The order is Dismore, Gallus, Cameron, Smith, Heisman, Crow, Bonetti, NEARBURG, O'Hara, Marconi. And those are your top 10.
Back on board with our 10th place runner, John Marconi, as he attempts to chase down Steve O'Hara. Coming through turn 7 now, setting up for the hairpin turn 8. Real close there under braking. On the front straight away, and Steve O'Hara gets real sideways there as he gets on the power, and John Marconi closes in. Looks like he could make a move here, but he's got a problem. Looks like the gearbox or somebody's struggling to find a gear right now. And he's off the pace completely. Looks like he's struggling to find any drive whatsoever. It could be the end of the day for John Marconi unless he can find a gear right now. His hands in the air. Looks like he's going to pull off course right now. Halfway down the front straightaway. Sad end to the day. He was going real well today, up to 10th place at that time.
And so John Marconi's day is done after that big crash in qualifying and all the hard work to get the car back in the race. Up front, meanwhile, here is the leader, Mark Dismore. What a great story he is, coming back from tremendous injuries in a huge front stretch crash at Indianapolis Motor Speedway a year ago.
Running
He
very
still walks
smooth here
with
today
crutches.
and did a great job at Daytona 24-hour for Dan Gurney's Toyota team. Very surprised that Mark was able to come back from those injuries and run in such a arduous race as the 24-hour, but he did an outstanding job. Gary Danaher was really pleased with his job there at Daytona.
Still walks with crutches, but it certainly doesn't hamper his driving. Mark Dismore continues to lead Jamie Gallus in Long Beach. Back in Long Beach, we have great drama at the first corners. That is the number 11 of Harold Heusman and the number 99 of John Brooks from Tucson, Arizona. Heusman was running in 4th place, and you can see he is not a happy Norwegian.
Well, that's unnecessary. I mean, Harold's just frustrated. 3 in a row now where he's retired, and obviously was lapping John Brooks. John had a superb performance at Phoenix, not running so strong here this weekend, but that's racing. I mean, I think just Harold was venting his frustration at John Brooks right there.
John Brooks letting Harold know he doesn't appreciate it. We said at the top of the show that this race could mean the end of the juggernaut for the Reynard cars. The 2 prime examples are now out of the race. Here's another look at what happened to Harold Heusman.
Under braking for turn 1. Harold's not really close enough, but John stays way out wide, and Harold obviously had an indication that John was going to let him through. Strange, really. Harold wasn't close enough to make the move. John stayed out really wide, and they obviously just collided. Harold's left front hit John's right rear. And we see Harold now jumping out of the car. He's coming over, shakes his hand in frustration, like, what were you doing? John's just obviously didn't realize he was there or whatever, and Harold clips him in the helmet. John doesn't think too much of that, and he's going to get out of the car and tell him so.
And now he'll run across the racetrack. Not another thing that Harold Heusman shouldn't do very often.
I think John Bornholt, the series steward, maybe having a couple of words with Harold after this one. I mean, unfortunate, it happens in motor racing. You got to control those emotions, though, and get on with the next day.
One of the unanswerable questions in motor racing is always, was the door open or not when I tried to pass you? There is the leader, Mark Dismore, over Jamie Gallus, Chris Smith, Stuart Crow. Now Carlos Bonetti runs 5th, followed by Charles NEARBURG, Steve O'Hara, Ken Johnson, Gustavo Gutierrez, and Joe Sposato is 10th. Now let's get down to the pits where Bart Kendall has caught up with Harold Heusman.
Okay, I'm standing here with an obviously very dejected Harold Heusman. Harold, you had a good run going. You came to lap a slower car. I guess it was John Brooks. And what was your version of it?
Well, I wasn't sure what he was doing, but then he went wide to let me go, you know. I went on the inside, and then he just closed the door. He was a lap down. I just can't believe it. Then afterwards, he told me he'd lost his mirror. He'd lost his mirror. And it's just bad, you know, strike of bad luck. 3 races in a row, none finished. It's just, I can't believe it. I mean, I just have to keep on looking forward, you know, waiting for the next race, and hope things to go better than.
Not only are the Reynards done for the day, but Harold Heusman had another string of bad luck. He's looking forward to the next race.
Looking at Stuart Crow going under Bill Pratt at the end of the back straightaway, and Bonetti's in the background. Obviously, Heisman's out of the way, so Stewart's now in the 4th position and quite a way behind the Gallus-Smith battle, but still strong points. Stewart was running 2nd in the points battle coming into today's race, and another good finish looking on the cards for today.
Stuart Crow taking a very wide line in that corner. Here's the end of the Harold Heisman story. He has been fined $250 on the spot for unsportsmanlike conduct in that collision. Now down in the pits, Bart Kendall is with John Brooks.
Well, I'm standing here with John Brooks, who was involved in that incident with Harold Heisman. Harold came up to lap you, and what happened out there?
Well, the problem is that it's not been a good weekend, needless to say, all the way, but my mirrors had fallen down on my car, and they weren't holding up. One of them's fallen out completely. So all I could do was rely on the corner workers to tell me when I was coming, cars that were trying to come around me were near me. I didn't get any indication from a corner worker, so I just took my normal line. Harold came down deep on the inside and just hit the rear tire and put me up in the air and into the wall. I know he's very upset about it. I'm upset about it too. It's just one of those situations I had no idea was coming, and to be honest with you, I think he tried to pull a pass off that he just didn't have time to pull off at that particular corner.
John Brooks is obviously disappointed as well. He's done for the day too.
A three-way fight as you watch Chris Smith, our pole sitter for today's race, entering the turn 1-2 complex. The cars of Brooks and Heisman still sitting there.
And Chris is obviously closing in on Jamie because he spun, lost a lot of ground, but he's not too far behind now. Meanwhile, Mark Dismore is some 12-13 seconds down the road in front of Jamie, so he's got this one in the bag, providing he doesn't get involved with anyone. Jamie going around our back marker there, number 32, which is Brent Lecelt. And Chris Smith now coming up. He should be okay, shouldn't get held up here, should be able to make a clean move down the front straightaway. Jamie goes through turn 8 on the power car, looks like it's handling real well, no wheel spin, no sideways coming off there, hard on the gas. Jamie's really matured this year and an accomplished race driver, on the pole again at Phoenix for 2 in a row, and doing a great job here today.
I learned a ton last year. You know, I kind of came in with not too much experience. This is only my 3rd year racing this year. And we learned, I mean, 1,000-fold last year, you know. And we just kind of, it's nice I'm with the same team. The 2nd year, we have real good communication, and we're all pretty good friends on the team now, so it makes it a lot easier. I always wanted to drive go-karts and stuff, but my mom would never let me. My dad always pushed for it, and I actually had a go-kart when I was about 8 years old for about a week until my mom found out that I had it, and then it was gone. So. And when, you know, I finally talked my dad into letting me go to driving school, and it kind of happened from there. So I was actually more discouraged than encouraged to be a race car driver.
Jamie Gallus, a student at the University of New Mexico, pole sitter in the oval race at Phoenix, Arizona, presently runs in 2nd place to Mark Dismore. We'll be back. Back in Long Beach, the white and yellow car to the left of your screen is Ken Johnson, running 8th on the racetrack, about to be caught by our overall race leader, Mark Dismore. Johnson, a great story, a former Super V champion, out of a regular drive in auto racing since 1987, but back in the car and doing really well, running in the top 10 here in Long Beach.
Done a great job here today under the guidance of Lee Hagan. He's recruited his ex-crew chief from Super V, and Lee Hagan is looking after this car, but he's not quite on the pace, but running a strong 8th. But this shows you how fast Dismore's running. He's about to lap the 8th place runner in this race right now.
Mark Dismore took the lead early and has been absolutely unstoppable here on the streets of Long Beach. Johnson locking up the left front wheel there.
A little bit late on the brakes there, a little bit too front bias in the car, but they're going to work the bugs out of this car. I think with some testing under their belt before Lime Rock, they'll be at the sharp end of the grid for that one. And Mark Dismore getting a run down the front straightaway. Should be able to pop him and pass him down into turn 1 with no problem at all.
We're working lap number 32. There'll be 5 to go next time around. There is Jamie Gallus, now in 2nd position, well behind Mark Dismore.
Yeah, I think this one's over for Jamie in as much as victory, but anything can happen. Yeah, we still have a couple of laps left to run, and he's got to keep the pressure on because Chris Smith is really coming on strong here at race end.
Jamie Gallus looking for a future in IndyCar racing, perhaps. He may someday drive for his father, Rick Gallus.
Jamie's the youngest competitor in the field today, and in fact we have a 34-year gap between R.K. Smith, who ran in the race today, and Jamie. 20-year-old for Jamie and 54 for R.K., but both strong competitors and can win races.
The gap is 10 seconds from Mark Dismore back to this man, Jamie Gallus. There is Dismore continuing to lap traffic. The number 4 car was Steve O'Hara.
So now we only have 6 cars on the lead lap.
O'Hara locking up the wheels, last year's Rookie of the Year at the tender age of 35. But today, nobody can touch Mark Dismore on the streets of Long Beach.
Some people say it's impossible to tell where the flesh and blood stops and the machine begins. But it really doesn't matter. Because whenever you put Ivan Ironman Stewart together with a Toyota truck, you know where they're going to finish.
Hi, I'm Chuck Woolery. I love cars, but I hate grease, just like this greasy engine. But now there's Clear Magic. Just spray it on, hose it off, and grease and grime disappear like magic. You see this grease spot on my shirt, Clear Magic and water, and it's gone. It's non-toxic, it's non-flammable, and it's totally biodegradable. Clear Magic has 1,000 different uses around the house, but don't tell your wife or it'll disappear. Like magic.
Clear Magic.
Back in Long Beach, Mark Dismore is the leader in the 3rd round of the Toyota Atlantic Championship for 1992. 2 laps to go on the racetrack.
See Mark now negotiating turn 3, heading up the 2nd to 3rd gear for turn 4. And back straight away, looking smooth.
Dismore came into this race tied for 8th place in points. He stands to move up. He scored none in the season opener at Miami. He finished 4th on the oval at Phoenix, Arizona. A victory today would give him 20 points and move him well up towards Russell Spence, the overall series leader, who went out of this race early with clutch problems.
Mark Dismore got the opportunity for this ride when Joey Marcello left the Atlantic Series after the 1st round to compete in the IndyCar Series with Euro Motorsport. And Bill Fickling and the whole Swift operation were keen to get someone strong in the Swift car to counter the challenge that the Reynard chassis put on for this year, and Mark's certainly doing the job here today.
He has 1 lap to go, 1 more circuit around this 1.59-mile street circuit in Long Beach, California. One of the best-known street circuits in the world, along with Monaco. Monaco has Formula One, and Long Beach has America's best open-wheel series. Among the junior development series, the Toyota Atlantic Championship. And you couldn't find a better example of what the Toyota Atlantic Championship can do for a driver than our leader right here, Mark Dismore.
See him coming now down into turn 6, a little bit bumpy under braking, but he's going to be taking it easy. He's got a good 10-second lead. No need to take any chances at this stage. Looks like a clean run, no back markers in the way at this point. Through the last turn, turn 8, on the power. Accelerates off the turn.
As the crowd comes to its feet in the grandstands, Mark Dismore comes down to take the checkered flag. No matter what his average speed was, it will be a record because of the newly redesigned circuit here in Long Beach. There is Jamie Gallus, your 2nd place finisher. He will be followed by Chris Smith.
Great performance by those 3. Mark will be ecstatic to get back. I mean, this is a comeback win for him. Obviously done a very good job at Daytona and run some midget stuff this year, but this is his first pro win, and he's back on track. I mean, obviously still has some injuries to encounter for the rest of the year, but great performance. I'm very pleased for him.
It's certainly the mark of a racer to come back from bad injuries and perform, and I don't think you could fault anything that Mark Dismore has done today. He has never put a wheel wrong on this busy and very warm racing circuit as the rest of the field comes under the checkers. He has done everything right today, and he is a deserving winner of this race. And so the Reynard streak is broken at 2. There is life in the old Swift. This man has proven it today. Mark Dismore takes the first victory of the year for the U.S. Bit Swift cars. We'll be back to meet the man when we return to Long Beach. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Toyota Atlantic Championship from Long Beach, California has been brought to you by Toyota Motorsports, where technology on the fast track is built into every Toyota. And by Budweiser, the king of beers, who reminds you, friends know when to say when. Back in Long Beach, California, as the crowds begin to file out, here's a look at our final results. Mark Dismore with his 12th career Toyota Atlantic victory, moving him within 1 of the late Gilles Villeneuve's series record. Second is Jamie Gallus, followed by Chris Smith, Stuart Crow, and Carlos Bonetti. 6th through 10th, Charles Nearburg, Steve O'Hara, Ken Johnson, Gustavo Gutierrez, and Joe Sposato. 11 through 15, Jordan Harris, Jeff Barker, Kent Lackelt, Tom Dooley, and Bill Pratt. Let's get down to Victory Lane now, where Bart Kendall is standing by with Mark Dismore.
All right, I'm down here in Victory Circle with a very elated Mark Dismore. First of all, tell me about the race. How was it?
Well, it couldn't have went better. Everything, all the moves were clean, and except for there was a questionable one on Chris Smith. I had a right front lock up on me, and I got in there, and the thing went to push, and so I had to kind of run Chris out to the outside, and I apologize for that, but other than that, it was all just good, clean fun.
And this must be especially sweet for you after your horrible injuries in Indianapolis last year and all the rehab and the work you did to get back to this point. How does it feel?
Oh, it feels fantastic. You know, I mean, this is like a dream come true. I mean, ever since my injury, I've shifted priorities a little bit, but still racing's my family's first and racing second. But it's been great, and it's been every race I've run so far with the midget and the Toyota P car and the Atlantic at Phoenix and here. They've all been sweet races, so I hope it continues like this.
Obviously, a lot of hard work and determination, along with a strong family, has gotten Mark Dismore back to Victory Lane.
Congratulations to Mark Dismore. Here's a look at Toyota Atlantic Championship points after 3 events. Russell Spence still the leader with 41 points. Stuart Crow draws much closer now, just 4 behind in second. Jamie Gallus came in 4th. He is now 3rd. Mark Dismore was tied for 8th. He is now in 4th position. And Steve O'Hara, who came in 5th, remains there. The margin of victory, 4.4 seconds, and an average speed of 91.51 miles an hour for our winner. Right now, Bart Kendall is caught up with second-place finisher Jamie Gallus.
You started second, you finished second. Looked like a walk in the park, was it?
No, there's a lot of stuff going on between. It was a good race. I ran alone most of the race, and I thought we were running pretty good. The car felt real good. I don't have any complaints at all. Arnie Loring gave us good power. It's just Mark was just flying, I guess, because he just came by me, and then stayed with him a little while. And I kind of had a couple incidents in traffic and stuff, and from there I catch up with him.
All right, Jamie Gallus happy with second place. More importantly, he's picking up valuable points towards the championship.
All right, thank you, Bart. The Reynard has been beaten, and the American-built Swift is back on top in the Toyota Atlantic Championship. We move next to Lime Rock, Connecticut. We hope you'll join us there. For now, I'm Bob Barsha. For Calvin Fish and Bart Kendall, thanks for being with us. So long from Long Beach, California.